This week I will discuss a second reason why markets may fail to achieve the efficient outcome: public goods. Over the last 2 weeks we discussed externalities as a source of market failure. We also discussed what to do about externalities in terms of policy and whether any of those policies are likely to be adopted. And this week we discussed the public goods problem, or the free rider problem, which leads also to missing markets. And remember, a missing market is simply a market that does not exist, and it's a market for a good that we do value, but that we do not trade on, like clean air. And we will also discuss what to do about it. First, a brief note on what to study. At the bottom is actually what you're supposed to read for this week in the textbook by Joe Stiglitz. But you may have noted over the last 3 weeks that I focus on certain things and not on other things that are discussed in the textbook. Now, if there are things in the textbook that I really never touch upon in the lecture or in the tutorial, the exercises, then they are not part of the required material. It may also be that I touch upon things in the lecture that are not discussed in the textbook. Then obviously that's part of the material, right? So the lecture notes are leading here. This is the structure of the lecture for today. So first we'll define what public goods are. Then we'll discuss the optimal provision of public goods in society. Then whether private parties are going to provide some of those public goods. And then finally we'll discuss public provision of public goods, i.e. what the government does about the provision of public goods. Alright, let's start with defining a public good. And let me start with an example. This is a road leading up to the farmhouse where I live. And the upkeep of this road is actually paid for by a voluntary fee by the residents living along this road. Now, in the house that you can't see to the left here, there's a very old person living. And he is not too enthusiastic about paying for road maintenance because he doesn't get outdoors much, and the other residents see the benefit of having a well-maintained road, but they also see that if they are the only ones paying, then the other ones are benefiting from them, right? So they feel sort of like they will be abused, and they don't want to be put in that position. So basically, altogether we pay very little in road maintenance, and this is what the road looks like in the wintertime. This is actually a very classic problem where it holds that if each of us chips in, then we all get to enjoy the benefits of consuming this good, for example, consuming road maintenance, but individually we have an incentive to let others pay, i.e. to free ride on what the others chip in. So people may do little for things that have a private cost but a public benefit, and this leads to a free rider problem, which occurs when those who benefit from goods do not pay for them, which results in under-provision of those goods, i.e. a not so well maintained road. Let me relate this to a graph that you are very familiar with, the marginal benefits curve. How does the free rider problem then work? Well, let's start with the familiar graph. To the left, on the horizontal axis, we have Q, and so how much of the good gets consumed in this case, and we focus on consumption. Now, on the vertical axis, we have dollar values, and in the case that a road is on your own land, then the benefits of consuming road maintenance are fully reflected by this one curve. Whereas on the right side we have a road that is shared by many, like the road in the example, and then we each individually enjoy the benefits of a well-maintained road, and we actually have to sum up the marginal benefits curve of each of those residents along the road to get the evaluation of consumption of this good for the society as a whole, so for all residents as a whole. And it's really like hacking this marginal benefits curve into pieces. That's what happens when we are dealing with a public good. So it should come as no surprise that road maintenance is called a public good. And let's be a little more specific. The idea is that the benefits from consuming road maintenance are collective in nature. What does that mean? Well, first of all, this relates to non-excludability. You cannot exclude others from enjoying the benefits of road maintenance, or at least you cannot do it at reasonable cost. So everybody uses this road and can use this road. So if I pay for road maintenance, then I cannot say, well, I'm the only one who can enjoy those benefits, right? Because the others also have to travel from A to B. It also relates to non-rivalness, and that is defined as jointness of use. The consumption by one individual does not reduce the quantity available for consumption by other individuals. So consumption of a public good is very different from consumption of a pizza, for instance. If I eat the pizza, then you cannot eat the pizza. But if I enjoy the benefits from a well-maintained road, then that does not preclude you from also enjoying the benefits of a well-maintained road. So, what will be other examples of public goods? Think about it. So what other goods are characterized by this free rider problem? One of the examples that we'll discuss in this week's debate is actually disease control. Efforts aimed at limiting the spread of a contagious disease. So if we put in efforts, for example, on making rooms safer, to have arrows on the floor, how to walk around in a grocery store, developing vaccines, etc. So those are all efforts aimed at limiting the spread of a communicable disease, and then it also holds that it is non-rival in nature. So if I enjoy the benefits of a society free from a communicable disease, then you can do that too. It's also non-excludable. It's not like, I can say, well, you did not chip in, you don't do your part, so you cannot walk around freely, you cannot go to this grocery store, etc. So you cannot really exclude others from enjoying the benefits of a society that is free of such a disease, right? Now, here's a picture that this is another classic example of public good, namely national defense. And when I invest in an army, so when I consume units of an army, so to say, so I always relate this to consumption, then that is a non-rival. That if I enjoy the benefits of this army, then you can also enjoy it. It's not like eating a pizza. It's also not excludable. We all live in this country, and even though your neighbor may not have chipped in, your neighbor also enjoys living in a safe country as a result of having a defense force. Alright, so here then a formal definition of public good: exercising demand for something that is beneficial for everyone, can be endlessly enjoyed at no additional cost, it's non-rival, and nobody can be excluded from enjoying it. It's also non-excludable. So when we apply this definition to street maintenance, then we see this is beneficial for everybody. Nobody can be excluded from enjoying the benefits of a well-maintained road, at least not at a reasonable cost, and others can enjoy it too at no additional cost. So it's also non-rival. Another way of saying the same thing: a good is non-rival when its consumption by one individual does not reduce the quantity available for consumption by other individuals. And that's the pizza example. One of the features of public goods that make them very different from private goods is that we all have to consume a similar amount. So whereas with a pizza, I can say, I buy half a pizza and you buy 2 pizzas, then that's totally fine, right? But in the case of a public good, we all have to enjoy a similar level of public defense, a similar level of a society being free from contagious diseases, etc., etc. And I cannot stress this enough, but let me go over this again. Public goods, whether goods are public goods, relates to consumption of the benefits. So when we talk about non-excludability, it's all about not being able to exclude other people from consuming those benefits as well. And non-rivalry means, that's again the pizza example, consuming this good does not prevent others from consuming this good as well. So they can consume it at zero additional costs. Very important to remember. And then there's actually a common mistake that this non-rival in consumption, the public goods being non-rival in consumption, has nothing to do with rivalry, competition, or what have you. It has to do with consumption of a good being non-rival, which basically means so another user can enjoy the same benefits at zero additional resource cost. Public goods are the second type of goods that we discuss, that so far we only dealt with private goods. So in Microeconomics 1 and in the first 3 weeks of the course, we only discussed private goods. Now we have public goods, and public goods are actually in this corner here. So they are non-excludable and non-rival. So where do private goods fit? They are excludable, right? And the marginal cost of use are not close to zero. So in the upper left corner are private goods, but then we actually also have other goods that are not excludable but that are rival in consumption, or that are excludable but that are non-rival in consumption. Let's first start with the first. So here common resources, which are an important source of negative externalities, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, like fish in the ocean. They are excludable, right? So I can they are not non-rival. So they are rival. So if I consume a fish, then you cannot consume the same fish as well, right? But they are not excludable. We cannot. The problem with those common resources is that we cannot put a fence around it. Although we always try, and there may be technological advances, but with fish in the ocean, that everybody can go out with a fisher boat and try to catch them. So they're non-excludable, but they are rival in consumption. And then finally, goods that are excludable, but they are non-rival in consumption, and that holds for goods like Netflix. We call those club goods. For Netflix, it holds that you have to pay a monthly fee, so they are excludable. If you don't pay this monthly fee, then you do not get access to all of the material provided by Netflix. But consumption is non-rival in nature, because if I watch a movie on Netflix, then you can watch the same movie on Netflix at no additional cost, right? So what are the two main characteristics that distinguish those four types of goods? First, consumption being rival or non-rival, and secondly, goods being excludable or non-excludable. And obviously we will get some practice putting goods into one of those four categories in the exercises before I ask you to do it on the exam. Let's look at this example and see whether you are by now familiar with the definition of a public good. This being a school. Is a school a public good? Another way of putting this, and I suggest that you do phrase it similarly when doing the exercises and also on the exam, is consumption of the benefits from education collective in nature. Well, as we discussed, that means, first of all, is consumption non-rival? So when I consume the benefits of education, does that prevent you from also enjoying the benefits of education? Well, certainly in the online world, it is non-rival, right? It is really like Netflix, etc. So when you enjoy it, I can enjoy it too. In a non-online world, and maybe at some point a certain gap, right? Because the lecture hall may be full at some point, and then you get many more students who want to consume the benefits of this of education. Then you may need to build another classroom, you may need to hire another teacher, etc. So it is non-rival up to a certain point, or and then in online world it's all non-rival. Then how about excludability? Is the consumption of education excludable? What do you think? Yes, we do charge a tuition fee. If you don't pay the tuition fee, we can exclude you, right? Then you are not allowed to take courses and to do exams, right? So in that sense, the answer is no. Schools are not public goods, and we can put them in the category of private goods, pretty much, right? Now, also on the exam, what I want to see is your reasoning. So you take the two characteristics of a public good, and then you show me to what extent those two characteristics hold for this particular good, and then you draw your conclusion. And very important here is, and that's why I included this example, is that schools may, certainly primary schools, may be provided by the government in many countries. So many students then think, oh, it's a public good because it's publicly provided. But that's not a proper way of defining a public good. To do that, you actually have to look at the characteristics of this good and then decide whether it's public or no. Obviously, that makes us wonder why we then have so much government involvement in education. And I think that part of the answer is related to what we discussed in week 2 and week 3, namely positive externalities from consuming education. But that's not a topic. Let's go to our second example. So we see here a car plowing the street, snow plowing the street, and this is actually provided by a private company, as you can see at the bottom, Maple Leaf. Then the question is, does this private car provide a public good? i.e., is consumption of the benefits from snow plowing collective in nature? Well, then we look at the two characteristics again. Is it non-rival? If I enjoy the benefits from a clean road, so where there's no heaps of snow, does it prevent you from consuming those benefits as well? No. So it's non-rival in nature. Is it excludable? That is the same discussion as with well-maintained roads. Those roads connect are sort of a public infrastructure, and they connect A to B. So we can't really exclude people from consuming the benefits of a road free of snow. So the answer is yes. This private car does provide a public good. Now, why did I include this example? Because it may well be that private companies provide a public good. The point is that provision of public good is likely to be under-provided in a free market. So it is perfectly possible to see private parties providing public goods. Final example. Is radio broadcasting a public good? Again, rephrasing, is consumption of the benefit from radio broadcasting collective in nature? Well, let's look at this consumption. Is it non-rival? If I listen to a radio show, does that prevent you from listening to the same radio show at no additional cost? No. So we can all consume this endlessly. So it's non-rival in consumption. Is it non-excludable? Well, then we get into discussions related to technology, right? So radio used to be non-excludable in the sense that those signals were just simply broadcast from a certain location, and anyone with a radio could receive those signals, and you could not say, well, I'm broadcasting this signal, but the signal should not go to John Johnson Street 3 because I don't want it. I want to exclude them. No, it's free to air broadcasting. However, and that's why I include this example, the characteristics of a good may change due to other market conditions and technological advances, because now, for example, in your car you can pay for satellite broadcasts of like a zillion types of music, and you have to pay for it first, right? So then it becomes more like a club good. Secondly, then you may ask, why do we have those public funded broadcasters then? And that if it's very much like a club good, like Netflix, then why do we have a BBC in the United Kingdom and an NPO in the Netherlands? Well, you may want to think about that at all. There's a clear link with externalities here that the efforts aimed at correcting negative externalities often have a public good character. For example, littering has a negative externality because I impose a cost on others, and it's something that they never asked for. I'm not paying for it. And also when I litter, it's also an invitation for others to do the same, so that's further negative externalities. Alright, and then street cleaning, i.e. that correcting the consequences of this negative externality. So that is non-rival in nature and also non-excludable. Similarly, crime has a negative externality. When I commit a crime, I impose a negative externality on someone else and also provide an invitation for others to do the same. And then policing, which is aimed at correcting the negative consequences of crime. Policing is just like national defense. Its consumption is non-rival in nature and also non-excludable. Finally, the missile defense. That's really sort of the classic examples in all textbooks of a public good. It's obviously non-rival in nature. If I enjoy the benefits of this wonderful missile, then you can enjoy it too. It's also non-excludable, so we together have this missile defense system, and I cannot say, well, we're firing off this missile, but it's only to the benefits of me and this other guy and not of that guy because he or she is not chipping in.